Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of welcoming back to the According to Woods podcast. He is my friend. He is a U of MMA veteran. He is a comedian. He's a social worker, a military vet. He's the one, the only, the great Stu Kosh. Stu, what's going on?
Yo, what's happening, man? It's good to see you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in or watching this later. I know how it is at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday. Driving home, it might be a little hard to get that phone in front of your. I don't know how you do it, but I like to watch a lot of these podcasts, whatnot. I'll put the phone right there right in front of my speedometer, so I won't know how fast I'm going. But as long as I'm going at like the same speed as everybody else, I can watch Rogan. I can watch murder mysteries. Which I'm gonna tell you right now, don't stream a whole lot of murder mysteries, especially if you're on quarantine. Everything you hear in the background of your house is like somebody's coming to kill you. It's crazy. It's crazy. Everything you see, you're like, oh, is there a dead body? When you go jogging, you're like, is there a dead body here? Is there a dead body here? I'm so convinced I'm gonna be murdered by my girlfriend or an ex-lover or something by watching these things. So
wow, it's sometimes you know how USA runs the countless hours of fucking, like, on a Thursday, there's like 8 hours of SVU, like Law and Order SVU,
my God.
and like the most heinous of fucking crimes and whatever. Yeah, and it's just like, holy shit. And then you just think that everybody's a damn, fucking mutilator and molester.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy about that is if you watch these YouTube channels that do a lot of these murder mysteries, there's a lot of overlap. So I'll be like, wait a minute, I know this story. Oh yeah, this is that one bitch that killed her mom and did it. And what you realize is there's only a small percentage of people out in the world doing this, but it's enough to make you scared.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's the deal, right? Because I think none other than Joe Rogan, right? He said, like, you got to look at it in context, right? Like, how many millions, if not billions of people are around? How many millions, and especially here in LA, right, where I am, you're kind of north of me, but, in LA, there's like, 4 million people? And if 5 fuckheads are doing dumb shit, well, guess what? That's a pretty good odd.
It's not bad. I mean, when we look at statistically speaking, like, LA is pretty representative of the rest of the United States. Maybe not ideologically, but like, hey man, there's African Americans, there's all kinds of different Latin Americans. I mean, I don't even get me started on like mixing those guys up. They will kill you. So you tell someone from Nicaragua they're from El Salvador, they will fucking stab you. And no one from Mexico likes to be associated with any of those countries down the line. But dude, yeah, like, LA is this huge place, this huge melting pot, and it's different from the rest of the world in that, like, you can really you can meet a lot of different cultures in LA. I can't remember how we got to this. But no, it's
murderous fucking people. Which, again, speaking of murderous fucking people, man, we had UFC 264 where fucking Connor obliterated the shit out of his own leg. But I have a feeling, Stu Kosh, that you might have an alternative factoid about such things.
Hey man, I want to talk UFC 264. I want to talk LA. I want to talk a lot of different things. But 264 is on a lot of people's minds because we had the Mystic Mac. We had this guy who was predicting knockouts for the longest time, who couldn't even tell you that after he got an X-ray on his ankle that said there was a hairline fracture on it, that it might break when you check it off of Dustin Poirier's knee. All right, or it looked like he actually, Boss Rutan was on it. He was like trying to debunk like maybe some people calling out things that weren't there, I think you might have seen on his page. He was like, hey, really broke down the video, and people were like, I don't know, but I think really definitively you saw there were a couple checks that really put Conor into a bad place. Now, what's interesting about UFC 264 are the true winners of UFC's 264. And this is the interesting thing about UFC 264. Let's go down the card and we'll look at this card. This is stacked and it was an amazing card. You're Sean O'Malley, okay? And I apologize if I'm not pronouncing the boy's name correctly. I think he's an Irishman, right?
Yeah, O'Malley, yeah. I would think so.
I think he's Irish, right? He's got a 4-leaf clover. I don't know if that's like I know it's like a lot of like white people tend to be, like really proud of being Irish. I mean, think about it. What are the only other white cultures you don't hear a whole lot of Alabamians or anything being like, don't fuck with Alabama. I mean, there's Texas, there's Irish, and like that's not even considered like you would consider like white pride kind of racist. But I mean, hey, when we're talking about the Irish, I mean, you're just talking about House of Pain.
Yeah. Get up your seat and jump around.
Right. And so, it really interesting. I think if we're talking about Sean O'Malley in terms of UFC 264, I think he's trying to fill that gap, that Conor McGregor gap, which will inevitably be there at 135, which is really different. But if you look at how he knocks people out, it's pretty insane. But if you look at his stature, who really, and this is what we're going to get into, who really won this fight. If you look at his stature, that guy's fighting at 135. Can you tell me how big that guy is? He's got to be 5'11".
Yeah, I thought he was even 6'1".
But fucking 135. I'm 135 right now. Man, I fit in the whole camera.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. He is 5'11", but he looks a lot bigger than a lot of people in the fucking division.
Yeah, and so if you're thinking about a 5'11", 135 guy, a lot of the way he's knocking people out tends to be from mechanics of like, okay, but what he really suffers from, so does Conor now essentially, are what? Injuries. Mm-hmm. This guy's always breaking his body. So when we saw this guy Sean O'Malley just tune up Chris Motino, and I have to look at his name because he's a fucking new guy. He's fucking brand new, fresh off the bench.
He almost looked like a fucking clone of like how they do the clones and everything, and what the origin fucking thing that they derive all the blood and the genes from. Well, they say when you make a copy of a copy, it doesn't really fill out, and that's what we got in Chris Motino. No disrespect for Chris Motino, but I mean, shit, that dude's a flyweight. Realistically, that went up in weight.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. And so if you look at the size difference, the type of fight, and he was coming into with what was it like 80 hours notice? I can't even remember when he was coming in.
He had just enough time to put in his 2-week notice in his fucking paint job.
Which was great. It was crazy they wouldn't even give him the time off, right? But then he gets a $75,000 bonus for getting his face smashed in. Now here's the interesting thing. Who picked up the bigger suspension?
Yeah, true. Yeah,
Sean O'Malley.
Right.
Both hands are fractured, possibly. He's got to get those x-rayed, okay? And so he can't even fight without those being x-rayed first. Then he's got to get cleared of his suspension from his hairline fractures that he had in his legs and all this other stuff. That guy's on like a 6-month suspension. Matino could fight again in August, September, as early as September 9th or something like that.
Yeah.
So where we're looking at, this guy walked away with a $75,000 bonus. He walked away with a huge fan base. He walked away from an old job, said, fuck you to the paint factory, whatever that is. A paint factory? I was thinking he was working stocking the paint. I didn't know he was making a fucking paint at the factory. Holy shit.
That's like Flashdance. Isn't that what she did? No, she was a steel worker, right? In Flashdance?
I can't even remember, dude. I can't remember Flashdance. I remember in Willy Wonka, the mom was like, dude, she was like a laundry person.
Yeah, right.
She was stirring the laundry. I thought it was she's making soup for the whole town. I didn't know what the fuck was going on as a kid. But dude, yeah. So we got UFC 264. We got the first match. It's a banger. It's just this guy getting his head. But I don't know what you saw at UFC 264 for the first round. I saw a green mop.
Yeah. So it's it's funny because you're referring to the Zalka Zumagulov Jerome Rivera fight. Both of these guys kind of going into it, they had like both of them were like on 2 straight losses, if not 3 straight losses in one of the cases, right? So it was a must win for both of them, right? And Zalga's just fucking standing guillotine the shit out of fucking Rivera.
Yeah, we've seen. What was really interesting is the betting line for this fight was a 170 favorite for Sugar, and it was a 700 underdog for, I think it was the same odds they give McGregor to beat Floyd, which was really shitty thing to do for so you got to imagine this guy's coming in really short notice, no hype behind him, and he pretty much did exactly what he was supposed to. He just got his ass whooped, which is what everybody knew. Everybody knew, oh, Sean, he's tearing through this division, who are they going to pick? Oh, this new guy. Oh, he's getting his fucking ass lit up. I knew right away. With that betting line, I couldn't imagine anybody putting any money on Chris Wynn. Yeah.
You see, here's the funny thing. I think in that particular instance, fuck, man, this is the Conor effect, right there, fucking ground zero for the Conor effect, right? Because theoretically speaking, there are guys on the roster that Sean O'Malley could have done, or even fucking Sean O'Malley could have taken the L and been like, hey, fucking Luis Smolka, he got injured or whatever, I'll wait for him to run that shit back, right? Like that.
Right.
But he was like, no, fucking give me anybody. And they got literally anybody.
They literally got someone who was making paint. They talked about it. He didn't even think his shit was going to get called. He was just kind of jokingly said, yeah, I'll fight him.
John Travolta, Saturday Night's Fever.
All right, yeah. So it's like you get these moments in time and you think to yourself oh, they lost the fight. Did they? They made the best of that opportunity, you know what I mean? And they let it all out. They let it all hang out. And which is a lot more than I can say for something like Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou, where the whole fight was just, I think there was one significant strike or something the whole fight.
That was such a fucking, that was such a letdown, And I was actually down on both of them after, but Ngannou, apparently his fucking camp fucked up the negotiations and whatever, and then now we got the interim title fight between, Black Beast Derek Lewis and Cyril Gane, the Frenchman, but it's just fuck. Do titles even matter anymore? I mean, it doesn't really matter. 264 was a non-title 5-rounder, theoretically.
I was blown away by that because I was looking at Dustin Poirier and Conor coming in at 156, and I was like, wait, I thought this was a belt, and I'm like, oh shit, he doesn't even have the belt, and they're doing this 3 fucking times. Mm-hmm. We're talking a 4th time. We need to clarify this. It's like, bro, you can just jump this guy. Just, you know what I mean? Let's look for fresh meat. Yeah, it's over. And the fact that this guy, he was the Conor situation, I think was eerily reminiscent of the Black Knight from Monty Python.
Ooh, haha, nice.
He gets his arm chopped off. Your wife's in my DMs. Come at me now, I'll kill you. What the fuck is this guy doing on the ground?
Well, dude. See, my problem, I caught a ton of shit online for it, and any post fucking show that I've done up to this point, I pretty much said it, right? I'm not saying fucking Conor's a saint. That's not at all what I'm saying. But Poirier is just as fucking cringy as Conor can be at times, right? This is a motherfucker that didn't, I'm not shitting on his charity, but this motherfucker didn't do the charity until he saw Justin Wren, the fucking big pygmy, doing the fucking wells in Africa and was like, aha, I should do that, right? He didn't fucking start, he didn't start
Dustin's whole, because I noticed that. He's calling people out, oh, this guy, we're raising money for this. I'm like, that's new.
Right. I mean, obviously, his last couple fights, especially when he won the interim title, they really played it up a little bit, right? As well they should. But I mean, again, to me, Poirier is a bandwagon bitch, right? And here's what I say, right? He didn't have a foundation before Justin Wren started doing it first, right? He didn't have a hot sauce, right? And start marketing himself until Conor hit gold with Proper 12. right? Until Connor get the fucking proper 12, and he was like, "Hey, whoa, like I want some of that money too." Right?
Yeah, well, even Connor in his last fight, he had a hot sauce deal. He had a hot sauce endorsement himself. I can't remember what it was. It was really weird. It was right after the stare down. He went back and he was like, "And I always use this hot sauce." And I was like,
"Oh no, he actually that was him endorsing Poirier's hot sauce."
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's so weird, right?
Like, yeah, and then look at even the way that he dressed. Look at any pre-Connor Dustin Poirier fucking press conference. That motherfucker is just in a regular t-shirt, hat, covering his face or whatever the fuck. 2 fights with Connor, Abu Dhabi, Fight Island, and then this one here. Like, he's all flashy. He's got some, like, he hired a fucking stylist. Again, he doesn't know who he is, right? And the whole thing with, like, his wife Jolie and getting the DMs. Here's the thing. I know Connor was cool with y'all at after Fight Island, right? It was cordial, right? The D Devlin and Connor and Jolie and Dustin, and they were kind of cordial and everything like that. But why would you give him ammunition, right? No, he's the fucking venomous rattlesnake. Why would you fucking give him ammunition, wife, and get in the DMs, right? And what was Connor? And that was the deal. Oh, supposedly Dustin called out Connor, on Twitter and shit like that. What did Connor say? That's one thing that because people don't like Connor. What did Connor say? When we're, basically disseminating that amount of money, Stu, when you get a grant or something, it's not just here, take the money and run. There's paperwork to fill out, there's line items, there's all this fucking shit, right? And Poirier and his camp, at least alleged by Connor, didn't fulfill that, right? So it didn't go anywhere. So by you not doing the fucking bureaucratic red tape that you're supposed to, because, hey, you run a fucking charity, Poirier. This is the shit you do, right? And because you didn't do that, then you do fucking bitch move and call the motherfucker out on Twitter? Wait, no. There's supposed to be, you can't do both.
I heard it. It was like, he told Dustin Poirier he was going to give his charity this money.
Yeah, $500,000, half a $1 million. But again, Connor said before shit went nuclear, he said, "Hey, there are things that you have to do, for my fucking accounting purposes, like, I mean, and assuming, yeah." So he was just like, and the Poiriers, namely his wife, and I'm not trying to talk out of school, but I think this is fucking public record. I'm not trying to shit on Poirier or Poirier's wife or whatever, but here's the thing. She's the one in place as the head of the charity. That was the logic behind her getting in Connor's DMs and saying, "What the fuck is up," right? But that's not the way you fucking contact people in a legal matter, like $500,000 going to a fucking charity. There's standards and practices. You should know it. You fucking have a UFC contract, right? But then you want to be upright citizens brigade, but then go down to the fucking Bayou swamps of the shit and DM on Twitter. Like, you can't be both ways. You can't be a prize fighter. Okay. You can't be a prize fighter and say, "Oh, well, I'm only gonna get 1/8 of what I'm getting with the 2 fucking Connor fights to fight for the title, so I'm gonna take these fucking 2 Connor fights." Right? So don't call yourself a fucking... But then you're also worried about where you fit in the greatest of all time deal and shit like that. If you want to be the greatest of all time, it's not 2 fights with an aging Connor. And I'm not to say that he's aged, but again, what did the fucking pink suit guy say at the press conference? Yeah. He hasn't won a fight since Obama other than Cerrone?
It's an interesting... It's okay, so what you bring up are some interesting points. Because... You're kind of stating that you had 2 things here. You said one was Connor didn't really or Poirier doesn't really know who he is at this point. Mm-hmm. He's trying to be this badass Bayou gangster fighter dude who's also got charities and calls out like leukemia people that are sitting in the audience, but then doesn't really make good on all of the charity that he says he's going to give because he's so fucked up and stupid. And he's not really running like a legitimate charity. It's like a tax write-off. Mm-hmm. So I totally get it. And so, but here's the interesting thing about it is that if we look at Connor's kind of his record, right? And we see that he went into that fight with Dustin Poirier the first time, talking all kinds of shit, flustered him, got him rushing towards him. Same with Jose Aldo. And that's pretty much where all of his magic came, was like counterpunching people that were really wanting to fuck him up. And so he had this strategy, punched some old guy at a bar, decided I can't be this dickhead anymore, came back and was like, hey, Dustin, I'll do your hot sauce. I'll do your charity. I'll fucking help you out, man. We're going to be boys. And then, what the fuck? Not only did he knock me out, he didn't give the fucking charity. He didn't make good on his thing. And now his wife's in my fucking DMs. No, man, fuck this motherfucker. Yeah. And that's exactly what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And that makes perfect sense.
That's what I'm. So again, I'm not at all, nominating fucking Conor McGregor for Satanhood. Not at all. He. I mean, the fucking Khabib's wife, Atal. Like, there are people within Conor's camp that are fucking Muslim, practicing Muslims and shit like that are like.
Oh, yeah, you're like, I don't want to fuck up the gravy train, but I also want to stand for my faith.
Yeah. So I mean, again, this is not, like. And I kind of hate these, right? Because, was Colby Covington right about Marty Usman, right? You remember that, right? Like, he was posing, kind of lie to kick it because he's in fucking Nebraska. Like, even Usman, right? Wants to call himself the fucking Nigerian Nightmare all of a sudden, but that fucker in all through high school and college was Marty Usman from the fucking from Nebraska. Yeah, and
Marty,
now,
you say you're a gangster? His real name's Clarence.
Yes, yes, right.
But
what was the same thing with Khabib, right? Well, Conor was right. If you really want to fuck with Conor, make him not right. Don't Khabib fuck around with the Kremlin and the fucking Chechnyan leader that's killing the gays. Right? Don't get your fucking gym funded by the fucking, like, totalitarian society of the Russian Federation. Like, just don't do that. Oh, you can't? Okay, then Connor's right.
Yeah, but what's really interesting about this then is that what we look at here is two things. So we kind of juxtaposed Sean O'Malley's career with Conor. This is like he's the opening for this guy. And it could look like, hey, Sean's going to do what Conor was doing when Conor's gone. Mm-hmm. Okay, but totally lost my train of thought here. But I guess what you're trying to say essentially is that it's really about how much money you're bringing in. Because, like, what you're talking about here is Poirier calling out a grudge match that really doesn't do anything for him or the UFC. It doesn't square away you're the greatest. It just gets you back that loss from way the fuck before you even know Poirier was, So what happened, I think, was you really have like an audience dictating from their fighters what they want to see. Like, we can all talk about how fucked up Colby Covington is. We can talk all fucked up about how Conor is. But people love that shit. They eat it up. They want to see people fight. They want to know what this is all about. What's the story? Why are these guys fighting? They can't just be athletes like Colby when he was in the beginning. Like, hey, guys, I want to say thank you for letting me fight. And thanks so much for being a... They were about to cut him until he was like, yo, fuck Brazil. Fuck these filthy animals. And everybody kept talking about Colby. And this is the interesting thing is that if you don't want shitty remakes made over and over again, then you need to go out and see something new. You need to, if you want Captain America to join the UFC and give moving speeches and charities and all this other shit, then stop fucking pretending you don't like it when you see Conor McGregor attack a bus full of innocent people. You know you love that shit. You know you love watching it. You know you love the storyline, and it eats you up, and there's some people you love watching get knocked out. All right, that's the kind of shit where we got to stay like, when we got to differentiate between us being loving fighting and these guys being fucking role models. Because I don't understand how that is. It's like, I just want to say I respect Dustin Poirier. I think he's a great man. But next weekend I'm gonna make his wife a widow. What the fuck is that? he said something wrong. Yeah, he said something wrong. Did you see it when he was shoving his fucking elbow into the guy's face? Nobody said shit about that. You're just like, oh, but the words. Oh, come on, the words. You got feelings here. What the fuck? Yeah, and really, what it is you have people. If you don't like these grudge matches, like everybody's mad at Floyd for picking up an $8 million paycheck for fighting some YouTube fucking star. Fuck you, I would have done that shit for fucking 20 grand.
Five for me, and I put that shit all on Dogecoin and AMC. Fuck it. To the moon. To the moon.
Yeah. And this is the thing is that, people are upset that what they are tuning in to watch is what they've it's essentially it's what they've created. It's their own monster. Like Conor's his own. Conor believed so much that he was this phenom fighter that could fucking outbox anybody, that he said, you tell Nate Diaz 170, thinking he was going to get a pudgy, fat motherfucker coming off the beach of Cabo San Lucas, and this motherfucker fucked his ass up and totally changed UFC and MMA forever. We thought that guy was Bruce Lee. We fucking, listen to Joe Rogan talk about Conor McGregor. He's the greatest guy. Like he's always talking about his movement, man. His movement. He said movement, man. And people, Nate Diaz was even like, people have been talking about movement forever. What the fuck are you guys talking about? And remember for a while he was rolling with the dude, the ponytail guy.
Yeah,
the all of the
Capoeira, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, that guy. And that guy was talking about he's gonna start fighting even. And I think he realized why. Like why?
Airports. He's in Redondo Beach, isn't he? The airports.
He's got like you pay him like 30 grand to learn to do the splits. That's that guy.
Yeah.
So fuck yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah, and dude, when we look at the lineup at this UFC event, you have some of these fighters here. You got Greg Hardy versus Tai Tuivasa. Now, other like people might think like Greg Hardy, it doesn't matter what he did in the past. Fine, it doesn't matter what he did in the past, but it does matter what he brings to the UFC, and it's not a whole lot. And I'm telling you, this guy, he's another one on a 6-month suspension. Just got his orbital socket broken. And when you're talking about kind of a mismatch of fighting, Tai Tuivasa is this kind of guy that knocks out people that can't get knocked out. And he's in there with the Greg Hardy. It's kind of like when you give a feeder fish to a shark, and this kind of stuff. I don't know, man. It's turning into way more of a business. This isn't your VHS that you're gonna pop in after school, and you're gonna watch a sumo wrestler fight a karate guy that's 33 times his size. Like this is a fucking profession now, and even Dana White has changed his personality a lot. Like when they said, "Hey, what'd you think of Conor's bullshit that he pulled?" He's like, "Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. I don't like that. I don't like that." Normally, this guy's like, that guy's a fucking idiot. But now we're talking millions of dollars in investments. We're talking crypto. That was the big one. Crypto.com was the first, the first big sponsor they had on there. And then also with that, they tried out a celebrity host for UFC 264, a commentator. No journalism. She's just some kind of like Instagram famous person. But that's what people want. No one cares about, the Metallicas, the Eagles, the Chicagos. They want the YouTube star. They want the instant famous person. That's the flavor of the week. Some of these people are famous for like a year, and that's it. And they'll make their money in these bare knuckle boxing matches. And like we saw the beginning of this, I think, with Celebrity Deathmatch. And then we had the celebrity boxing.
Oh, it's still there. Here's a little tidbit. Do you know David Feldman of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, or BKFC? His little brother is the guy who runs celebrity boxing.
Oh, no way. So see, it's like great minds think alike, man. And so, but I think and now that I've even seen this too, is there's so many different combat sports out there that are trying to kind of make a name for themselves that are in a lot of ways, I think, pretty obscure. But I think like there's medieval knights hacking each other up with swords and axes and stuff. It's crazy. And I think this bare knuckle, I think we're getting closer and closer, not necessarily to that idea of idiocracy, but this idea that like we just like it's not enough. Like when you see a card, this is like case in point. When you see a card, there's 5 people on the card, and the first 3 fights are knockouts, and then the next fight is a technical bout. What does everybody start doing? Yeah. And so that's the thing is that when you start seeing knockout after knockout after knockout, that's what you're going to fucking expect is knockouts. And dude, boxing's not going to do it for you anymore. You got to take the gloves off now. I got to see some blood. And I think that's what you're speaking to about this. Like, what are these guys, athletes, or are they fucking running a charity?
Yeah. And you can't be half whole, right? You got to be all in. They can't be shades of gray. Now, obviously, to people, okay, you need like a Conor McGregor type or a Floyd Mayweather fight or Ali, right? All this shit, right? That they're talking about, Conor McGregor, right? And all the shit that he's getting from the hardcores, right? Well, you got to remember, right? Most people regard Muhammad Ali as one of the greatest boxer of all time, right? And they'll neglect the fucking, couple fights that he had for money, or the fucking shit with Inoki where he was all fucked up after, his legs are clotted. They said that was the precursor to him getting, Parkinson's, right? It was the fucking blood clots that he sustained that kind of traveled up, right? He was never the same after, right? So with that all being said, in many people's deal is like, he's the fucking greatest, blah, 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 whatever. Most people forget how persecuted that Muhammad Ali was at the time that he existed, right? So I wonder how history will look upon Conor McGregor.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I don't know how it's very, if you look at like someone like Ronda Rousey, who kind of created the sport. I mean, it's kind of like she's kind of like Michael Jordan's Nike to Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan to Nike. Like who did who the favor there? Yeah. UFC really branded Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is now able to go and be in the WWE. But this is the interesting thing is that are we going to have these iconic athletes like Muhammad Ali coming out of this sport? I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know if we're in that era anymore.
I don't know. Again, and that'll only persist. And again, with Conor McGregor, right? When he was commanding a fucking payday and UFC didn't want to pay him, right, of the Floyd Mayweather deal, what did he say? Okay, you'll pay me this, but then pay me this in terms of, what is it? The fucking ownership in the company,
stake, he wanted stake in the company, and then he realized that's not going to happen.
And they said "fuck you" to him, and then what? A year and a half later, they go public. Endeavor, right? It's super crazy because like I think. Like, all of these people, and rightfully so, you want to start a fucking fighters union and everything like that. Hey, they started that in the NWA way back in the day, right? The same fucking antitrust lawsuit that happened and currently happened with the UFC. Well, back in the 50s, the National Wrestling Alliance was the same thing. Like, shitty promoters would fucking say, hey, fuck you. I don't like you, so you're blackballed from the wrestling business. It's the almost exact same fucking thing. And here we are all these years later, and it's the same fucking thing. In the instance of Conor, again, he was trying to get bargaining power back. They didn't even give it to him. So guess what? Who else is going to get it after Conor? There is, I mean, for the foreseeable future, there's probably nobody that can rival Conor in terms of legitimacy. In terms of, like, do you think fucking
status?
Yeah, the Kardashian or Justin Bieber were there for fucking Dustin Poirier or anybody else on that fucking card?
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's like, will, I don't know. It's like we see the UFC evolving. We see the sport evolving. We see, politics becoming more and more a part of it. It's just like, what will the UFC look like 10 years from now? Will it be, like when did we get, like LeBron James can't even be the next Michael Jordan. He has to always live in that shadow. And like we can't even have like who's the next Michael Jordan? Well, it's a toss up between Kobe, LeBron James and all these, right? It's like we don't have that like iconic standout athlete anymore. It's kind of like when something's in its infancy, we have somebody like kind of leading the way. And that I think was Conor. That was Ronda Rousey. The sport was very new.
Brock,
they were still
Brock.
Yeah, The Rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we're going to see too many people come out as these icons. And with that, remember how big it wasn't? There were two Shamrocks, right?
Ken
and there was
and Frank.
one Shamrock. Yeah, there was one that was like a good guy, and then one was a kind of the anti-hero, kind of the schmuck bag.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the optics, one can make an argument for either one.
Yeah. But what's interesting is I remember that guy was trained. Shamrock was training with the Marines.
Mm-hmm.
He was like out there showing him his stuff. It was so new. It was like, wow, these guys are ninjas, real ninjas.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of like, okay, we just want to watch somebody get knocked out.
No, 100%. Robbie Edward Bryce says, yo, Mr. Woods, what's going on? Good friend of the show. And a question for Mr. Kosh, your thoughts on Conor McGregor breaking his leg?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I think Poirier said it. When we saw Conor coming out, just throwing haymakers, and those leg kicks were loud, and the ones that got checked were even louder. And we know Conor has had these kind of injuries to his leg and to his ACL. He's had these a lot of times before. And we're looking at a Conor that has to now fight some of the greatest strikers in the world. Okay, so we're not just talking about a Chad Mendez on a 2-week notice.
Right.
We're talking about seasoned pros who have suffered really bad losses and are like, I'm not going to do that again. Okay, and when you look at Poirier, the way that Poirier cleans people out, he'll throw like the 3 or 4 hit combo. So, like, to be honest, I think Conor McGregor got a big favor breaking his leg at the UFC 264 because what was it, a 10-8? What was gonna change?
Well, okay. Here's my gripe, right? Here I'm gonna stand on my soapbox for a little bit. In terms of, everybody was shitting on our good pal Herb Dean, right, for stopping the fucking fight, when there's 20 seconds left in the Chris Matino Sean O'Malley fight, right? But the catch 22 is, right, all those people that wanted another 20, 30 seconds in the Chris Matino fight and let him fucking go out on a shield, well, nobody wanted to see another, like, assuming, now obviously this is a bit of a stretch, right? But assuming Conor hadn't broke his leg, right, or fucked up his ankle or whatever the hell, right? Assuming that didn't happen, so nobody wanted another round, like, to see how Conor fucking responds. You're in the fight. You've had shit that might have, hey, first round, not so great, and then you fucking turn it on. You kind of figure it out. You go back to the drawing board.
This is the interesting thing about MMA, and this is the interesting thing about just winning in general. I can't remember who made the quote, but it's the quote is something along the lines of, it's not the win doesn't go to the fastest, the win doesn't go to the best, it goes to the luckiest, it goes to the person who's like trying, it's like keeps trying, perseverance, all these things. But like there's a lot of factors that go into winning a fight. I took a fight and my second and third round were better than my first. Mm-hmm. Why? Because I got my ass kicked so bad in the first round that the guy literally gassed out the second and third. That's not a fucking viable strategy long term, though, right?
Exactly.
And so, in my head, I could go, oh, if I only fought differently those second and third rounds, maybe I would have won. But it's like, yeah, but if you didn't get your ass kicked the first round, none of that shit would have even been a variable. So here's the thing about MMA, and it's like, oh man, what would have happened? What would have happened if there was 10 more seconds, 5 more seconds, 1 more second? That's not the situation. The situation is this. You get lucky sometimes and you don't. And we saw Conor's tear through this division, and some of it had to do with luck. And he made his own luck a little bit by calling people out and getting under Jose Aldo's skin for a whole year so that when he comes out, he's like, he's just fucking throwing these, and he tells everybody, I practice this counter shot every time. All of the orthodox people throw their right and they drop their left a little bit when they do it, and I'm right there to catch them. He's been working on this fucking thing. He wants you to throw his fucking big haymaker at him. Come on, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Right? It's like, so, look, you can say that, oh, if he hadn't have broke his leg, what would it have been? And, of course, we want to see that.
Yeah.
We want to see either Dustin beat him up or him beat up Dustin, whatever. But I think what this speaks to is, like, there's a lot more in fighting than just being good. There's a lot of luck involved. And sometimes you might want to cash out your chips while you're still on top, so you end it on your terms.
Yeah.
And that might be called lucky. I mean, but this is like this is one of those things where it's like, how many times do you play with fire and not get burned?
Exactly.
Before you tell yourself, oh well, like all these other times that did, worked all these other times. I don't understand. It's like, well, you gotta realize, like, statistically over time, you're gonna get bit by the snake. You can't keep grabbing it. You're gonna get caught, and that's what happened here. And it's sad because it's happened to Anderson Silva.
Yep.
It's happened to a lot of fighters. I forget who that fighter was. Came out of the Ultimate Fighter, tall black dude, and he broke his tibia. And I was thinking about him, like, where did he go? Because he got into the Ultimate Fighter. He lied about how many fights he had.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah, they asked him.
Yeah,
and he's like, this was my first fight. And they were like, what? This is your first fight? He's like, yeah, I lied. I never did any fighting. And like, yeah. And so like, they really groomed him and they saw him as like a really potential star. And then that break, which I think is very similar to the Kobe Bryant break.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of break is really crucial to your mobility, your ability to light the flash. So like to be lightning fast, your agility and your speed. I'm sorry.
Right.
So what I think about Conor breaking his legs, I think it's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I think also it's kind of divine intervention.
Yeah, because he'll keep on going. How much almost billions do you need to keep on fighting? It's it. And Robbie Rice says, as long as Dana White's in charge, the UFC will stay the same. Okay, I see your point. And you can even revert that back even to wrestling, right? Everybody talks about how shit the WWE product is, right? The fact that here in this kind of post-COVID, during COVID incarnation of the UFC, where Endeavor, right? How many contracts? They are the agent of, Ronda Rousey and so many fucking top level. It's William Morris Endeavor. They've been around for fucking, 70 years in terms of a talent agency, right? And their profits, the strength of them actually going public was off of the deal that they had with ESPN that got funneled back to Endeavor, right? So with that all being said, there's going to be a point, and again, total disclosure, before doing this, before COVID, was doing Uber here in LA, right? I picked up people from fucking West Hollywood, the Endeavor, William Morris Endeavor fucking big building off of Avenue of the Stars, right? And they were like, hey, you're sound good. Have you thought about announcing or something? I was like, I actually do like MMA, interviews and shit like that. They're like, what's MMA? And I was like, UFC. I was like, what's that? People who work for the parent company that owns the UFC don't even know what the fuck UFC is. Right? So here's the thing. Here's my kind of rebuttal, right? Because there's grumblings, right? WWE's just sold their tape library to NBC Universal, right? Your entire WWE network, you have to get through the Peacock network, right? Dana, right? There might not be many more times that he's going to be with us year over year dealing with the same shit. Then you're going to get just suits that went to a fucking school, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, you're not making this much t-shirt sales, so I don't care if you're a fucking champion. You're gone. Right?
Yeah, so I see what you're saying. It's kind of this catch-22 where, you had this guy he was like a blue-collared, white-collar crossover where he could talk to the fighters and he could really get to know them yeah, once that's gone, I mean, here, check this out. And then we didn't even talk about this really, but Irene Aldana got a crazy finish over a tough opponent who was coming in and KO. I think this was her first KO victory, actually, or her second KO victory only for this fighter, Irene Aldana. And while we're looking at Dana White at a press conference, someone goes, "What's up with Aldana? What'd you think about her performance?" And he goes, "Oh shit, hey, don't let me forget. We got to get her a bonus too, $75K." That's not happening without Dana White. When you got the suits, it's like, did you do X, Y, and Z? Then you're not getting it. And yeah, this is your contract. This is your thing. And there's going to be a lot more butting of heads, a lot less negotiation because they don't have this guy that really knows how to talk to these dudes.
Yeah.
Really knows. I mean, you're negotiating with people that have CTE.
Yeah. Yeah. That's facts. That's facts. Alex Gutierrez says, what about Sean O'Malley? He's a popular fighter, but he's not ranked at all. One of the reasons why he's not ranked is because he doesn't fight ranked people.
He can't fight because he keeps getting fucked up. So that's the thing is, look, Sugar Sean O'Malley got to come up with this realization himself. And this is what we were just talking about. I don't know if you caught the beginning of the podcast. Sean O'Malley got a 6-month suspension. The dude that he tuned up got like a month to 2 months off. That's it. 3 months off just to heal, and he's going to be right back out there. He doesn't have to go back to work at the paint factory. Sean O'Malley, he's got time for another couple tattoos. That's what I see. January 1st is the first time this guy can start fighting again. I mean, Jesus, you're going to talk about he's got to go get his x-rays. He's got to go to orthopedists. He's got to go to all these bone people. That's going to cost him all this fucking money. Who really won that fight? Now, I'm telling you, Sugar Sean O'Malley is a very talented fighter. However, he keeps breaking his fucking body, and he's not getting any ranked opponents because he can't climb the ladder. Now, look, you had a good fight with
Smoker.
Man, who was he?
Oh, wait, no, you're Cheeto Vera.
Cheeto Vera, well, he lost that fight, right? But look, hey, you got to have someone like Sean O'Malley in the roster because Sean O'Malley will tell Conor McGregor that he's still undefeated.
Yeah, 100%.
After that loss, because that's after Cheeto Vera, he breaks his foot, and he's like, hey, I didn't even really lose that fight. I just broke my foot. I don't know what the fuck that means. But that's the kind of mentality you have to be you have to be somewhat fucking delusional.
Right. But see, here's the catch-22, right? Everybody is talking about that, and not to say that everyone let Sean O'Malley get away with it, because everybody still is hard in the paint that we remember. I'm still undefeated. It was not so much you defeating me, it was me fucking my own self up. But same thing happened with Conor. But Poirier, ooh, fucking huzzah! Yeah. Poirier wins. Ooh, not Conor fucking himself up.
Yeah, and that's I think what Conor, I think a lot of people were like, hey, Conor was like, he wanted to make sure this was a doctor stoppage. This wasn't him quitting, and he wanted to really say like, hey, but that's the thing about it. And then when someone asked like, well, what do you think about Conor losing his legs? Breaking his leg. I think it's really unfortunate, but that's what the fight game is. It could be a guy in a fucking parachute coming into the main event in Caesar's Palace, and you gotta fucking be ready for that. You gotta be ready for that. That should happen. Okay, like, yeah, this is a part of the fight game, and a big part of the fight game too, which Sean O'Malley realizes is that, with the Cheeto Vera loss. He broke his foot, and he starts saying he's undefeated, okay? that gets everybody talking again. Like, oh, this guy, he doesn't know when he's beat. Well, now the people want to see him get his ass whooped. You know what I'm saying? And he's going to have that same mentality going into these fights and bringing in that money. And so he's kind of like he's willing this place for himself he's willing this place for himself in the UFC, where he's talking about he's the greatest ever. And so like people want to fight that. They were like, no, fuck that. I'll beat this skinny motherfucker up. Yeah. And then they get in there and they realize this dude hits like a fucking tank. Now, this is the very interesting thing about Sean O'Malley is that he has to decide if he's going to stay down at 135 and keep breaking his body, right? Because I don't even know when the fuck he broke his body. He's got to get 2 x-rays on his hands. Both hands need x-rays and his legs. What, because he touched somebody? This motherfucker's Mr. Glass. You know what I mean? This motherfucker needs to fight fucking Bruce Willis, Unbreakable, for some shit. Because, like, dude, this dude needs to go up. So here's my opinion on Sean O'Malley. Great fighter. You're milking a weight class that's not your own. And you're going to go through these people and fine. But you're not going to grow into that weight class. We're not looking at Sugar Sean O'Malley to develop the bones and muscle he needs to be a strong 135er. No, a 145er. Yeah. Maybe even a 155er.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So when Sugar Sean O'Malley, great fighter, but like, hey, do you want to be the dude knocking everybody out at 135, or do you want like to see your, and you could do that for 3 or 4 more fights, but I don't know. I don't know how long that lasts.
No, exactly. Now another question for Stu: your thoughts on Logan and Jake Paul winning, over UFC and boxing competitors, and then I guess a 2-parter, and who will play McGregor in a movie about his life, should there be one?
Conan O'Brien. No, I don't know. That's a good question, man. Who's good? You know what? They're probably McGregor playing himself, man.
I think so.
Yeah, McGregor, he'd be pretty pissed, but he said he doesn't really want to do any of that.
Hey, you know what? What's the guy? The guy that's about to play Hulk Hogan. He used to be married to. He's in Thor. Hemsworth.
Oh, Hemsworth?
If he's look, I mean Hemsworth, right? You remember how Chadwick Boseman was playing like all of the black people, like
right.
Like the same guy that was Jackie Robinson, who's also Thurgood Marshall, is also T'Challa, is also fucking James, like whatever, right? So Hemsworth is like that. He goes, he bulks, he steroids the fuck out to play Hulk Hogan. He drops all the way fucking down to play Conor McGregor. I'm just saying.
Dude. Christian Bale.
Ooh, yeah, that's
or Matthew McConaughey.
Ooh, that too.
Because Matthew McConaughey got that Dallas Buyers Club. He got skinny for that one, dude.
Yeah.
And we kind of look like Conor in the 144. But yeah, what were the Paul Logan and the Jake, the Pauls, the Logans. So this is what we were talking about before, where it's like, hey, people are like, oh, Conor's not a saint. It's like, yeah, I know, he's a fighter. And it's like, oh, Paul Logan, he's not a real boxer. Well, he's an entertainer. And so what we know about boxing and fighting in general, or any kind of form of entertainment, it has to be entertaining. Okay? And so people might complain about these things, but it's what the people want. I know die-hard MMA fans that enjoy the sport, enjoy martial arts, enjoy the authenticity of it. But they tuned into that Logan Paul shit. They bought it. They bought the thing because they wanted. And I'm going to tell you, these things are like Fast and the Furious franchises. Okay? Like, it's not just about Vin Diesel. It's about 2 Chainz. It's about fucking, like, there's like 10 or 12.
Ludacris, Tyrese. Right?
Ludacris. Tyrese, General Motors. Like, dude, there's a ton of sponsors people that pick up work from these movies, And like when you look at a Paul Logan event, you've got like the dancers come out at the beginning. Like, it's an event. And so this is the idea of an expedition or exhibition is like, this is what it is. It's an exhibition. Is wow, we're gonna see, but like this is the thing: do people the people have to ask for what they want, and I think we're seeing it more and more. And this is what we're talking about: the people just want to see people get fucked up.
100%.
They don't even really care how it happens. YouTube fail compilation, fine. Somebody on the news getting hit by a car, fine. Another politician getting indicted on a sexual assault scandal, fine. I just want to see people get fucked up.
Wrecked. As you're living vicariously, like you done so well, so my life is shit. I'm working at Walmart, so let me, have my paltry sum of fucking money to pay $80, for a UFC pay-per-view to people who get fucked up, and talk about that was a knee bar. What the fuck? No.
The funniest thing about it is because we all watch UFC. Like why do we go to a stand-up comedy show? Like, I'm a stand-up comedian, right? I notice when I do a really good job at a stand-up comedy show, everybody walks out of there funnier. Why? Because that's why they wanted to go there. They wanted to see, and they're like, oh, I can do that. I'm funny too. I know I can make jokes like that. And in their group of friends, maybe you are the funniest, but you got a weird group of fucking friends, okay? And so, when we talk about when we oh shit, I totally forgot how I got onto this, man. But remind me again what we were just talking about.
You were talking about the kind of the pomp and circumstance of everything, right? It's a spectacle, right? And everybody thinks that they could fucking do it. You're a comic, everybody thinks funnier.
So when you watch the UFC, you're gonna have people who are like, yeah, that guy, he really sucks. He's not even a good boxer. I bet you I could do better. And they think back to their 4 touchdowns in high school that they had. And that's the brilliant thing about watching simulation is you can live vicariously through it. And I think the more and more regimented and systematic we become as a society, the more sheltered and the less we're able to be ourselves, the more we're going to need outlets like this to cathartically dispel all of our emotions that we get from answering a phone for 8 hours a day. Hi, thank you for calling AT&T. How may I help you? I mean, dude, I used to work at Bubblegum Shrimp Factory down in San Francisco off of the Pier 49.
What?
When I was done with my shift, I would go to my friend's house. I would play Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I would go to San Francisco, and I would just start blasting people on Fisherman's Wharf. Just dude, that's why people go crazy, man. That's what they mean. Go old school is everything is the way that it's, and you just want to see chaos for just a couple of hours. You want to see chaos, and so when we talk about these big exhibitions, we want to see Logan. We want to see Logan Paul or whatever the fuck his name is get knocked out, or we want to see Floyd, who's been running his mouth for fucking 40 years, get knocked the fuck out, whatever it may be. But that's the thing about us as human beings is all of this happens. The Connor's breaking the legs, the Sean O'Malley's beating up the new kid on the block. All that happens so that you can return to work on Monday.
Yeah.
With a smile on your face.
100%. Shit. I mean, I think there couldn't be a better fucking button up on that this episode. So, Stu, for people that want to get more of your comedy stylings, look up your fights on YouTube, all that jazz. Where can they find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, check me out. Stu Kosh is my Instagram. Stu K. But you can Google me, Stu Kosh, and you'll find my stand-up on my Instagram. I got and I'm at Flappers Comedy Club Burbank. So that's where I'm based out of. You can come see me do stand-up and check out my movie if you can. I produced a movie for Lifetime, believe it or not, a Christmas movie. And hey, man,
I was in it.
And Adam Woods was in it. He's in the background. You are for a second. I saw you in the background.
Yeah, hey. Yuletide cheer and all that jazz, seeing this face made for radio in a movie that the great Stu Kosh produced. Again, go ahead and follow him. Check him out at Flappers Comedy. Stu, I can't thank you enough for disseminating this shit show of a card. But all of them are shit shows of a card. And again, talk about bargaining power, right? as long as the train keeps rolling. Again, you remember the fucking cool ass knockout that happened 6 weeks ago? No, because there's 6 more weeks of fucking knockouts and shit like that. So guess what? You got no bargaining power. So again, I'm actually pissed at Poirier because he's like that fat kid that got 2 slices of that fucking cake, right? Because like he wasn't gluttonous enough to get the one fucking slice, right? And fucking alms bear for the fucking choice and granted thing that he got. Well, he will have to do it too, and he fucked it up for somebody else who is in similar situation that don't get red brownie night for them and their missus or mister or whatever. So I guess fuck Poirier is what I'm saying.
Yeah, in a weird way, fuck them both.
Fuck them both with each other, in each other, is what I'm saying. So, again, thank you for joining us. This has been According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Stu, you have been a guest multiple times. Are you subscribed to the podcast?
Yeah, I am, actually. It pops up all the time.
Hell yes.
The world.
Damn right. So be like Stu and go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. But if you don't believe me, believe Stu, and I don't know why you wouldn't. Here's Pro Wrestler Zeta Zhang to convince you.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make